Hi everybody, it's time to try our fourth, so our second to last whiskey of the Islay Peated Scotches tasting. This one, just like the last one, it's also a pretty high ABV. So if your palate's not warmed up, you probably start with something else. Maybe something even, fairly high in ABV or proof, just to make sure that you're acclimated to this. Because again, you don't want to miss out on the different subtle flavors that you might pick up on. And if you're not ready for it, it's just going to taste like alcohol burn and smoke most likely. So get your palate acclimated. If you're championing through and doing all these in one night, you should be good, because I didn't exactly plan it this way, but I sort of did. It turns out every whiskey that we're having each day, we're getting a little bit higher in ABV, and maybe even higher in smoke. Hard to say for sure just yet, because I've not tried these last two, but I know that the ABV on these ones is going to be higher, and with the last one being the highest just by a smidge. But without further ado, let's get right to it. The next one that we're going to try, again, I've not had this one before. I have had whiskey from this distillery before, and that distillery is Lagavulin, and the specific bottle we're going to be trying is the Lagavulin 12, that's the law. It's the 12-year special release from 2021. This is basically straight from the barrel, put into the bottle, no filtration, nothing added, nothing taken out. It's not cut at all, it's cask strength, so this is right we'd be getting from the barrel. It is 56.5%, so what is that? 113 proof, pretty high for a Scotch. Lagavulin, this is another one, maybe not as ubiquitous or well-known when it comes to peated Scotches as Laphroaig or Ardbeg, but it's definitely up there. This is a distillery that's been around for a long time, and they have one whiskey in particular, their 16-year-old, which really is, it's like a classic peated Scotch. This one's you're going to find on a lot of bar shelves as well. They have a decent Scotch selection. It's very good. It's, like I said, it's a classic. You'd be hard pressed to find like a best of Scotch list or whiskey list that doesn't include that. Or at least if you go across a few, I'm sure you're gonna find that name somewhere. It's a good whiskey. This one's supposed to be even better. I'm very, very excited to try it. It's really tough to find. It's a limited release. They release one of these every few years, or excuse me, one of these every year. And I've heard this is the best one that they've done in a long time. But that it's also not for the faint of heart. Let's give it a nose. It's like a spicy smoke I'm getting. Hard for me to get more specific notes than that. Yeah, it's almost like prickly on the nose. Like if I didn't know any better, I'd say it's like almost like the way a rye spice in a bourbon kind of gets you in the nose and the palate. I'm getting a little bit of that on this too. But obviously there's no rye in here. It's Scotch, 100% malted barley. Yeah, I'm not getting a whole lot other than, some spice, some smoke. It's sweet under there. It's almost like some kind of spicy fruit or something like that. Oh, let's give it a taste. Goes down much sweeter than I thought it would. Spice is gone. There's definitely smoke there. And it kind of billows up as I swallow it, and I get I really feel that finish in my chest, more so than the other ones. But until that point, I didn't really feel the ABV on this a whole lot, which I think is a good thing. It doesn't taste particularly hot in that way. Yeah, I really have a hard time putting my finger on the nose of this one, even after drinking it. Maybe it'll come with me after a few more. Let's see. Yeah, this is a tough one. This tastes smokier for sure. And it's almost like a spicy smoke delivered mainly through sweetness. I mean, it's a dumb way to put it, but the first thing I get on the palate is sweetness from the whiskey itself, and it almost like leaves this smoky, spicy, like after effect or after a taste that fills my palate, and then it gets like smoky heat kind of as it goes down. And I guess that's kind of on profile for Lagavulin in my experience. The Lagavulin 16, I always compared more to like a campfirey sort of smoke, like a campfirey peat flavor, and that's kind of counter to Laphroaig, for example, that has that more medicinal, artificial, maybe band-aid iodine-y notes to it. I think those are sort of on opposite ends of the spectrum, and yeah, I think this follows that. There is a little bit of that kind of artificial, chemically medicinal sort of note to this to some extent. I think that just comes with all peated whiskeys to some extent, but I definitely get more of just that, not ash, but like that campfire smoke sort of sensation. Yeah, I think this is good. I think this could do well to open up a fair amount too. Tastes like there's something more in there and that maybe I'm not getting the full flavors out of it, like every single note, all the nuances of it. In fact, I think I'm gonna try to put a little bit of water in here. I'm gonna get a dropper and add some. So I've added some water to it. I think 4 drops of distilled water. I mean, it's kind of a lot for this amount of Scotch, I'd say normally, but it's cask strength and it's pretty strong flavors. So I think that amount of water is probably gonna do okay with opening this up a bit. And I think I mentioned this in the advent calendar, but when it comes to Scotch, I think as opposed to American whiskey like bourbon and rye, it's pretty common for water to be able to open things up and to be kind of widely accepted as being okay to put some water in to open it up. I think with bourbon a lot, it can diminish the flavor of the bourbon itself or make it harder to get all the notes from it. Maybe water it down too much, just make it not as punchy. And I think bourbon's really supposed to be that way, but with Scotch, it really can just make it easier sometimes to pick up on some of the subtle nuances. And I think it's pretty common for folks in Scotland to routinely use water with their Scotch. And so I think especially with cask strength Scotches like this, when you're having a little bit of difficulty or needs to open up a little bit more, why not add a little water, see how it affects it. Don't really want to aerate it a ton because I don't know that that'll open it up much more than just time in the bottle will, but let's see if that made any difference, the water. On the nose, it's less of the spiciness, more just smoke, but really pleasant. Like I'm almost getting a little bit of those savory notes, not the same way that we had them in the Ugadale, the Ardbeg, but maybe leaning in that direction a little bit. It's actually a lot better. I like that. Let's give it a taste. Yeah, I think that helped. Softened it up a bit. It did really tone down that spiciness and made it a lot easier, for me at least, to pick up on some sweet and some savory notes in the whiskey that I didn't pick up on at all before. So I would definitely recommend adding a little bit of water. Hopefully you didn't finish it before you got to this point, but add a little bit of water to it, a few drops. I think that'll go a long way. Just let it set for a bit too. I probably waited like 5-10 minutes, something like that, after I put the water in, just to let things settle. I hear you don't want to spin it too much because it'll upset, I don't know, the fatty acid esters or whatever's in there. Not really sure, but just let it set and it seemed to do pretty well. So I like this. I like it a lot more after adding the water than I did before. Probably a combination of water and just having more time out in the open air. So I think if I'm lucky enough to have this again, I'll probably let it set out for a little bit, get more air to it, and add some water to it from the beginning, just so I could really experience a whole dram of this while being able to pick up on those more nuanced notes and without getting overpowered by that spicy smoke, which I think happened at first. But if you get past that, I think this is actually really, really good. If you like this, try the Lagavulin 16. It's probably the easiest to find. It is a little bit more expensive though. It's usually around $100 or a little bit north of that. If you can, there's also a yearly release called the Lagavulin Distillers Edition, which, it's up and down. It can be good some years, not as good other years, but generally I'd say it's at least comparable to the 16. It's non-age stated, so it's unclear exactly how old it is. That might vary year to year. And the Lagavulin 8 actually, that comes in, oh man, not quite half the price of the 16, but close to it, maybe like 60-70 bucks, something like that. It's hard to find, but if you can find it, it's supposed to be pretty good. I've actually never had it, but I definitely want to try it, just because I hear it's a little bit, certainly a better value according to some than the 16, but it might have a little bit more youth to it too, so that might be off-putting. Anyway, I really like the 12. Especially when I add the water to it, a little bit different, and I think this gives a different peat profile than a lot of the ones that we've had so far with that more campfire smoke. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you picked up on the differences, and cheers. We'll see you for the last one.